Did that little twist in the monk's story make you smile or gasp? Imagine sipping that very first golden tea and feeling centuries of curiosity unfold. If you want to wander more through cozy, magical stories like this, hit like and subscribe, and join our gentle little adventure. Section 1. Hey guys, tonight we step into a world where mist hugs the mountains, incense curls lazily from clay burners, and the soft murmur of chanting is only interrupted by the occasional clatter of a wooden bell. You probably won't survive this story if you're expecting just another How Tea Was Invented lecture, because somewhere between napping monks and the clumsy brilliance of accidents, history becomes oddly magical. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's fun to imagine this story unfolding all over the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge along the worn dirt path of a centuries-old monastery, a place where silence is both revered and occasionally broken by the rogue giggle of a mischievous novice. Here, a monk, let's call him Liang, carries the world's most insignificant problem: staying awake during afternoon meditation. He dozes under a large camellia tree, a gentle breeze tugging at its glossy leaves. Oblivious to the impending fame of his sleepy blunder, he accidentally knocks a few leaves into his steaming bowl of boiled water. That's right, you, dear listener, are about to follow the story of the monk who accidentally invented tea. Historians still argue whether this initial brew qualifies as tea or just a herbal coincidence, but whatever it was, the aroma is unmistakable, wafting into the monastery like a whisper of fate. Early monastery life is simpler than you think. Picture days measured by chants, chores, and the subtle dance of shadows across tatami mats. Liang, like many monks, had a secret indulgence, doodling little caricatures of fellow monks in the margins of scripture scrolls. It's absurd to imagine, but yes, even back then someone was quietly sketching a sleepy abbot with 3 noses, and it seems unrelated, yet here we are, following a monk whose curiosity trumps propriety. The leaves fall, splash into water, and suddenly there's magic, well, aromatic magic anyway. The first leaves float, release a faint golden swirl, and Liang leans over to sip. A shiver races down his spine, partly from the hot liquid, partly from the odd bittersweet taste. You follow along, imagining the surprise on his face, the soft exhale of steam, and the tiny thrill of discovery. He chuckles, yes, laughs aloud, disrupting centuries of strict monastic silence. Quirky, right? Some fringe sources claim he even tried adding a stray piece of ginger root, but let's be honest, historians still argue whether that's true or just creative legend. By evening, whispers spread like wild incense smoke. Have you heard about the drink that wakes your mind without disturbing your soul? Someone asks in the corridor. Monks gather, debating if sharing such a drink violates sacred silence rules. They peek around corners, clutch their robes, and giggle quietly, careful not to attract the head abbot. And so, the rumor grows, a simple accident has become a cultural tremor, the beginning of something that will, in ways none of them can imagine, ripple far beyond these mountains. Remember that feeling, like discovering a crocodile dung sunscreen recipe long forgotten? It's absurd, it's human, it's history sneaking in through the leaves. Section 2. The golden infusion doesn't stay confined within monastery walls for long. You wander alongside wandering monks, stepping over gnarled roots and past stone lanterns, as they carry the beverage to nearby villages. Imagine them balancing delicate bowls in one hand and chanting under their breath, a procession of sleepy messengers carrying whispers of a magical drink. These monks have a knack for exaggeration. By the time they reach the market square, a sip of tea is rumored to make you see into the future, or at least spot a particularly stubborn fly. Historians still argue whether these claims were purely metaphorical or early marketing genius, but your imagination hums with the possibilities. Imperial intrigue enters the picture when a local ruler, curious about the murmured elixir, summons a monk for a royal tasting. You can picture the scene: gold-trimmed robes, a ceremonial bowl that's far too small, and the ruler leaning in with skeptical eyes. The first sip triggers a comedic reaction: grimace, cough, and then a grin, because somehow, the bitter leaves spark delight. Fringe accounts suggest the ruler even demanded a cup before sunrise each morning, believing it sharpened his judgment. You trace every wrinkle of surprise and amusement, sensing that tea is no longer just a monk's private indulgence but a tiny spark of cultural rebellion. Medicinal hype follows quickly. Monks claim it revitalizes energy, scholars debate its effects on digestion, and gossip circulates about miraculous cures for headaches. Section 3. You follow the first merchant caravans as they trudge along dusty roads, carrying woven baskets filled with carefully dried tea leaves. Each step sends tiny motes of dust dancing in shafts of sun, and you can almost smell the faint aroma of leaves mingling with leather and sandalwood. Traders chatter about profits and rare blends, yet historians still argue whether tea spread was an intentional act of commerce or a series of fortunate accidents. Either way, the beverage has left the monastery behind and is now touching towns, inns, and markets along the way, forever altering the pace of ordinary life. Exotic encounters pepper the journey. You taste with the traders as they experiment with unusual ingredients, dried petals, crushed spices, even a pinch of salt, which, strangely enough, produces a strangely pleasant tang. Fringe accounts suggest that one particularly daring merchant added a sliver of almond, accidentally inventing the precursor to modern nut-flavored teas. You can almost see the faces of the townspeople, initially suspicious, then curious, as the first leaves infuse boiling water in small clay bowls. Each sip sparks conversation, laughter, and, occasionally, the soft gasp of someone discovering they've stumbled upon something extraordinary. Ceremony begins to emerge in pockets along the trade routes. You imagine silk-robed tea masters carefully measuring leaves into porcelain cups, the faint clink of ceramic a counterpoint to hushed instructions. The ritual grows, an art form entwined with patience and elegance, and your mind drifts to whispered etiquette: never pour tea too quickly, always observe the swirl, inhale the aroma before sipping. Historians still argue whether the ceremonies originated in the north or south of the empire, but the effect is unmistakable. Tea is no longer just a beverage, it has become a medium for reflection, mindfulness, and subtle showmanship. Economic ripple effects follow. Small towns flourish as merchants pass through, taxes are debated in provincial courts, and fringe evidence hints at clandestine leaf smuggling when local lords attempt to corner the trade. You picture the clandestine exchanges at night, lanterns casting long shadows, hands swapping woven baskets discreetly, and the soft giggle of someone who knows they're bending rules without breaking them completely. Tea is quietly becoming a commodity that touches every layer of society, from peasant homes to aristocratic estates, shaping lives in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. By the end of this section, global curiosity ignites. Ships carry leaves to distant ports, rumors of miraculous effects sail across oceans, and your imagination travels to faraway markets where tea is now a symbol of exotic sophistication. Traders whisper of foreign palates, blending blends and learning regional preferences. The world is awake to tea, and you, right here, are tracing the steps of leaves that started under a camellia tree, unaware that a sleepy monk's accident is about to ripple across centuries. Remember those first giggles and spilled leaves? They echo faintly in every sip you take today. If this story makes you smile, could you tap that like button? It's a tiny click for you, but it means the world to me. And if you'd like to wander through more cozy journeys together, hit subscribe. Come join our little story family. Section 4. Tea's journey now rides on the shoulders of merchants as they push farther into unfamiliar lands. You trudge along narrow mountain passes, the scent of dried leaves mingling with the tang of sweat and dust. Caravans navigate treacherous cliffs, relying on ropes, patience, and a stubborn optimism that a single basket of tea is worth the risk. Historians still argue whether the early trade routes were carefully mapped or stumbled upon by sheer accident, but what's undeniable is the resilience of the leaves and the people carrying them. Each market they reach lights up with curiosity, villagers peer over stalls, noses twitching at the unfamiliar aroma, eyes wide as someone pours a golden infusion into a chipped cup. Exotic encounters multiply. You witness the first blending experiments as local ingredients join the tea: dried fruits, fragrant herbs, even a stray pinch of pepper, producing flavors that would have seemed scandalous back in the monastery. Fringe historians claim one daring merchant accidentally dropped a handful of crushed insects into a batch, and while historians debate the truth, you can almost imagine the wide-eyed reactions of early tasters. These experiments, sometimes haphazard, sometimes intentional, feed curiosity and obsession alike, establishing that tea is not merely a drink but a canvas for taste. Ceremony deepens as culture absorbs the ritual. You glide into palaces and town halls, imagining silk-lined chambers where carefully timed pouring, delicate whisks, and gentle inhalations form the backbone of social etiquette. Historians still argue whether these ceremonies developed independently in multiple regions or evolved from a single origin, but the effect is immediate. Tea is now a medium of artistry, mindfulness, and polite subterfuge. Your mind drifts to whispered. Section 5. You now trace tea's journey as it sails across oceans, carried in barrels and woven chests by merchants with calloused hands and sunburned faces. Picture the rhythmic rocking of wooden ships, the tang of salt and tea leaves blending in the air, and the thrill of exotic discovery as the beverage reaches foreign shores. Historians still argue whether traders prioritize tea for its taste, its medicinal reputation, or sheer novelty, but for you, the journey is a sensory tapestry: creaking decks, sun-warmed leaves, and the murmured excitement of new patrons sampling their first golden sip. Each port offers surprises: tea poured into unfamiliar cups, mingled with local herbs, creating flavors both delightful and puzzling. Exotic encounters continue to shape tea's evolution. You witness curious merchants in bustling bazaars, where colorful spices mingle with the scent of brewed leaves. Fringe accounts claim some early traders even experimented with flowers and aromatic oils imported from distant lands, producing blends so unusual they were sometimes rejected entirely, yet sometimes adored. You can almost see the raised eyebrows, the tentative sips, the quiet nods of approval or polite grimaces, all part of the growing legend of tea. These early adaptations hint at a cultural flexibility, a willingness to embrace accidents and curiosity, that will define tea's global story for centuries. Ceremonies formalize further, crossing continents and cultures. You drift into delicate rooms where etiquette guides every movement, tilting cups, observing the swirl of leaves, inhaling aroma before taste. Historians still argue whether these rituals emerged independently or were adapted from ancient practices, but the effect is universal. Tea is now a bridge between cultures, a subtle language of refinement, patience, and shared enjoyment. Fringe evidence even suggests that in some regions, secret societies developed around tea rituals, adding mystique and exclusivity to what began as a humble monk's accidental brew.